Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of the Record Drums Online podcast, the podcast where I get to chat and interview session drummers, mixing and mastering engineers, and also music producers. So this episode is episode 30, which is insane. I've never thought I was going to make 30 episodes. I thought if I make 10, it's already pretty good. But this is a special one because I wanted to make it quite special since it was like number 30. And I managed to interview one of my drum heroes. His name is Malcolm Catto. I don't know if you know him. He's a UK drummer, producer, legend here in the UK. His level of pocket and his playing is insane, but also his records are insane. He's the founder of Heliocentrics and also plays with Little Barry. I've heard his music probably the first time listening to Black Focus by Yusuf Kamal. He's not playing drums there, but he engineered the record. And yeah, in this episode, man, it's just a chat really. He said yes. I went to his studio and we had a proper chat on how he likes to record drums. And he literally has zero secrets. He tells us how he mixes drums as well, how he likes to record without click, and as I said, like the man has so much knowledge in music, especially old records. I was taking notes throughout the whole episode just to see who those bands he was mentioning are and the gear he has. And anyway, there is a lot of really good stuff that I'm sure you guys are gonna like. So as always, if you enjoy this podcast, we made it to number 30. So thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching and for the support. So here it is. So without further ado, here's Malcolm Catto. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Record Drums Online podcast. I'm here with the legendary UK drummer and producer Malcolm Catto. Hi Malcolm, thanks so much for...
Hello, thank you for having me. Cheers.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much for agreeing to do this. That's very kind. So yeah, normally we always start with the usual question: How did you start playing drums? How did that evolve into becoming a producer?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How much room have you got on that? I mean, I tend to waffle. So one of the problems of getting older. Well, basically, my brother had a band when I was a kid. He was older than me, and he had a post-punk band, and he called Decoy 33, and it was our next door neighbour who was his best friend, him, and some skinhead who was at school with him.
Right.
Playing drums. It was pretty good actually. Good drummer called Terry Tuttle, which is a great name, isn't it?
Yeah.
Terry Tuttle.
Terry Tuttle, right.
But he left for some unbeknownst reason. I don't know why he departed, but he left, and I used to go and see him rehearse, and I knew the tracks. So basically, my dad, for my, don't know, what was I, 15, 14, or don't know. But my dad bought me his old drum kit. He was selling his drum kit, so for 50 quid I got one of those old Max Rim Pearl things, or whatever. You know, like huge toms, and like Phil Collins, I don't know, anyway. But, and I just kind of was able, because I'd seen them rehearse and knew the stuff, I was able to just sort of pick up the sticks, and I guess because I really wanted to do it as well. You know, it's something that I wanted to do a lot because I thought it'd be, you know, good fun to be in a band, and especially with my brother and, you know, my next door neighbour who was like a, you know, also like a brother to me. So, so yeah, I just picked up the stick, and just after a bit, I just found I could. I mean, it was pretty basic, you know what I mean? It's post-punk. We were covering Wire, bit of. I was also at that time into early Pink Floyd. I was having a bit of a psychedelic phase, you know, that psychedelic 80s revival thing. I got into that, and started checking out old bands, 13 Floor Elevators, all the Pebble stuff and everything. And after that, split up. I joined another band called Perfect Disaster, who were kind of into the Velvet Underground, and that was great because the guy was a lot older than me. Phil Parfit, still going strong, doing stuff. Amazing record collection. So at like 15 or whatever, he's, have you heard of Captain Beefheart? Have you heard of the Stooges? Have you heard of... And just played me all these amazing records. Maybe even Can. At that age, I don't know, though. I remember hearing Can and thinking it was a bit too clean for my liking. I was into the rough old 60s kind of sound. I loved that, the energy, because it was a bit like punk, all that old garage and stuff. Yeah, I got into that, joined a band, 60s band, playing garage and psych, and that was in the 80s. That was just, it was... We all knew something was wrong when we recorded it. We were like listening to it back, the demo, got a copy of a promo record each. And, we're like, this don't sound right. I had no idea it was because it was like full 80s production. Do you know what I mean?
Okay,
so it didn't suit the music. It didn't sound right. And I suppose from that point, that got me interested in production. Why didn't that sound right? Then you heard other bands from that era, and they had a really good sound, like Pussy Galore. I don't know, I was quite into Butthole Surfers and Sonic Youth, that stuff. At that point as well, but also got into the hip hop, and that also is very heavily influenced. That's all about, a lot of it, that's about production, right?
Sure, yeah.
All those guys, I mean, that's what amazes me, is it's the same sometimes with some of the funk records. It's like studios you've never heard of in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. But they've managed to capture something, and it's same with the hip hop stuff. I've got I kind of went down a rabbit hole with the hip hop, like I have done with a few kinds of music, psych, krautrock, post-punk, whatever, jazz, and
who did you start with? Like, sorry, with the hip hop. Like, what kind of hip hop you started with listening to?
Well, it must have been stuff like Lord Finesse. I was living in Wood Green at the time, and I remember I had a portable radio, and I was just walking along the street at night, and then kind of tuned into this local station, and they were playing, it's like Ultramagnetics or something, and next day I went to the shop, pretty much I was like, what is that? Played it to them, I was like, it's so, Jungle Brothers, it was like 87, 88, around 89, that sort of period. And just for me, when it got really interesting, when they started, well, obviously the sampling capabilities, the technology meant that they had more options and they could get more creative. I mean, saying that Public Enemy stuff, second album and all that, that's pretty early, but still it's amazing what they were doing off of tape machines.
Yeah, right.
It's incredible. But that blew my mind as I was still drumming, but I hadn't really ever thought of that as being a career. That wasn't really an option. I mean, I never really I played in a band called The Weeds, we were doing some good gigs, supporting Primal Scream and things like that, but touring with them a bit. And but even then, we were sleeping on people's floors, and do you know what I mean? All in a van, and it wasn't a financial, it didn't offer any. No. It was kind of hobby, because you loved it, but to pay the rent. I was a printer, that's what I am by trade, just sort of fell into that, and that paid my rent. But later on, I suppose heavily influenced by hip hop, and you know what it's like with the hip hop. I mean, it's accelerated the amount of records that have been discovered, obscure records. People like DJ Shadow, whose collection's phenomenal, you know, and they just went so deep down the aforementioned rabbit hole, discovering stuff of all genres that were interesting and inspiring or had a sound that they liked. And then, yeah, that really opened my eyes, the hip hop thing, to a drum potential. And I guess through that I got into the funk stuff and jazz, you know, discovered Elvin Jones, the I don't know, all of the funk stuff is for me is the intent behind it that I love. It's almost is like hip hop in the way that they mean it.
Yeah.
And talk. I was lucky enough to meet quite a few guys from bands back then.
Yeah.
And it was important to them, you know. It was a big deal. It was, you know, like a social political statement that they had they made their own independent record, free to do what they wanted.
Right.
To a certain extent. I mean, there's a guy called Arthur Monday who released a record and he used the N-word on it back in 1968, 69.
Wow.
Something like that. And because of that, I don't think he got any radio play. So if you obviously...
Yeah, you'll never find it.
If they swore, stuff like that, then it limited how much radio play you got. But generally speaking, these guys did what they wanted. And speaking to these guys, some of them, you know, they would give me some advice. I'd play them stuff down the phone and ask them what they thought. Like James Gadsden was great. He helped me when we were curating a California funk album, because him and Charles Wright were amazing. They knew everybody, you know what I mean?
Wow.
Like, oh, this guy, oh yeah, he's, you know, so and so. You try him, and then you get in contact with them. And I remember playing something at James Gadsden to see what he thought, which is a bit cheeky because obviously, you know what I mean? But I thought, oh, you know, this I'm quite pleased with this drums. You know, something off our first album as the Heliocentrics, which is quite hip hop, you know, influenced and funk influenced, but also, you know, a bit of music concrete and stuff like that. So I played it to him, and I remember him. He was saying, "Yeah, it's good drums, man. Yeah, I like it, but you sped up on the 10th bar. Why did you do that? Why did you sped?" Wow, did I? You know, I didn't even notice. So, you know, that's the level of competence that you kind of...
Yeah, those guys are just...
But even the cats, like from the funk records, who weren't like technically proficient, it is just that. Give it everything. And one of the guys, Chuck Eatman, one of the bands that we licensed music from for a compilation, I remember him saying... you had to feel, you know, the thing is to feel every note and mean every note, which is quite an undertaking, right? I mean, it's that's hard to do, but it reminds me a bit of that punk ethic where it was about the intent that you were putting into something rather than the technical ability. I think the technical ability sometimes can overshadow the initial concept or idea, or, you know, it can get a distraction from the music because it becomes the focus by itself is the musicianship. And I don't know, I'm not really, I just think that having a feel and meaning what you play is much more important than being amazing. You've got guys like Yusuf, though, of course, who mean it and have got that technical ability. You know, which is when you can have those two things together. It's like Elvin Jones or something, isn't it? It's a force of nature, no doubt.
For sure. How do you reckon? Like, what's a good way to, let's say, teach it to someone that, you know, is getting into drums and is like, you know what, I wanna learn drums, but I feel like I've been doing a lot of technical exercises. But I'm kind of lacking the intent.
What I say to a lot of musicians who come here in you know, and my objective here is to make the best sounding records that I can, with, generally speaking, pretty appalling budgets and whatever the infrastructure allows and the budget allows. But one thing I think is important for me, definitely, is that the heaviness of stuff isn't from so much like playing hard or loads of fuzz or distorted. It's the heaviness of a rhythm that everyone's kind of tuned into, and you hear it on those old Coltrane records where they start and it's all precise, and then they really listen and they're all absorbed, and one person starts to swing something differently. It's the same with Afrobeat, Fela Kuti. It's like it locks in a different way. So I think, something that I struggle with is having lessons. I mean, not drum lessons so much. I only had like 4 or 5 drum lessons, and that was, pretty basic stuff like paradiddle and But I've had piano lessons, and straight away it's putting a cap on your imagination by having this idea that everything has to be formed by bars, and everything's in 4 or 3/4, or so I try and encourage musicians to try and forget that training and just to listen and to put the notes where they want to hear it, not necessarily where they would play.
Like, so leave the theory behind. Like, just focus on what you hear.
Exactly. Because I was having this conversation with someone not so long ago, and the Heliocentrics. We're I suppose trying to write music that we haven't heard. We can't reference immediately, so it's the only way we can do that is by all of us bringing our influence to the table collectively.
I wanted to ask you something about when it comes to drum sounds, right? Like you got the most, I was saying before, like the most unique drum sounds. They're very recognizable, and I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. To me, it sounds like they're kind of dusty 70s drum sound. Probably, I don't know. Probably you're not going. It depends, of course, from the song and everything. But it kind of how do you basically visualize or hear a drum sound before it even comes out? It's a bit of a
well. I think drums are pretty important, to music generally, and I think they do determine an atmosphere of a track, sometimes. So I guess when I'm recording drums, if I've got a band in, obviously he's got, whoever it is, a reggae drummer in there who just loosened all the skins off, but toilet roll and gaffer there, and totally changed everything. And some punk bands will bring their own, guys bring their own kits sometimes, but a lot of people do use this because they can't be asked bringing their kit or whatever. So but obviously you will hear and play in the room and determine, okay, well, this guy's playing very light on the snare and he's heavy on the cymbal, so you can't try and give him a dead cymbal and a loud snare or something, or mic the snare up close and try and get this thing, or okay, that sort of thing. But I think I try and start off with something that's usable, but that sounds good in the context of the music. So personally, I do love the sound. I'm really into those old school drum sounds because I got so heavily into hip hop and those funk 45s and jungle, and you know. But I think what I'm hearing on a lot of that stuff is basically it's something that is unprocessed a lot. It's underproduced.
Okay.
It's just capturing a performance of the drummer, and the technology kind of suited that sound. Like you listen to the drums, a funky drummer.
Yeah.
Okay, they had Ron, what's his name?
Is it Clyde Stubblefield, right?
Yeah, James Brown engineer is amazing, but you got Clyde Stubblefield playing. What? It's a great drum sound, right? And it's the technology was perfect for capturing that at the time. I think music and technology go hand in hand. So the 80s, you listen to the 80s, that's a lot more controlled, a lot more produced sound, right? It's like everything's close mic, everything's kind of processed, gated. And I guess I'm coming from a live music background from, you know, though I was a bit late, you know, I was a bit young for it. I did, like I say, I'm coming from post-punk. Bands used to regularly go and see bands like The Birthday Party, missed a lot of a lot of great bands, but, you know, Susie and the Banshees or whatever, Killing Joke, I don't know, all these kind of bands. I was lucky enough to capture them. So that is very much what moves me, is being at a concert. Something like The Birthday Party.
Yeah.
When you're 16 or maybe younger, I can't even, probably younger than that actually at that time. But it just blow your mind. Because you haven't got the references also. That's one thing.
Okay.
You get older, and of course you've done some digging, and you can he's got a bit of that, there's a bit of that going on, and you can disseminate it, which is sad really, because it's great just to have a blank canvas, and just like when you're 14 or something, and you go to a gig and you see them, and it's just, what is that? And that's, I suppose, my inspiration is also to achieve that, is to do something musically that I haven't heard before, but it's quite hard with a traditional live band format. I mean, because so much has been done, right? But
absolutely, I have to say, like 14, 15, that age is. For music, I don't know. I think it's like quite a special age, because you kind of, everything feels new, and you don't have, as you were saying, you don't have a reference.
Jaded or I don't know. But it's interesting. I get guys in here, people like Skinny Palembe, and different young cats basically who come in, and their wealth of knowledge is like bands that I didn't discover till I was like, like this here, I didn't know about them, and I was listening to John Peel every night, and I went, you know, other bands like 23 Skidoo, I was into them and stuff, but this heat, someone played that to me when I was in my mid-30s or something, or in my 30s. I'm getting 24-year-olds saying, oh yeah, this heat, of course, My Bloody Valentine, or this, and you know.
Yeah, well, now there is internet, so I guess they're.
But that's
too easy.
That's amazing, though, isn't it?
It is.
The playing field is been leveled to that extent, because it was kind of an advantage. You can hear it with certain bands where they've got the references. And they could copy something from an obscure psych record, and you go, wow, that's the most amazing thing. Then you later in life you hear that and go, oh my God, that's, you know, I mean, there's loads of references for that, but anyway, it's not important. But everyone is influenced by stuff, and it's going to come out subconsciously or consciously. I think it's great if you don't do it consciously, because so much stuff is available. It's only a matter of time before people hear that and make a direct comparison. So what's the point in doing something that's
no, true. I wanted to ask you about tuning.
Okay.
If there is any particular way you look at tuning So let's say you have a song, right? And how do you go about tuning the drums in a certain way, or?
Well, when bands come in, I leave it to them. They can do what they like with the kit. Maybe they bring down some bits and pieces. I like this setup because it's tried and tested, and the cymbals and hi-hats are quite dark. I hate that zingy, bright, new cymbal stuff that you get when you on tour or whatever, and you're given, I don't know, some. So for recording, that's I mean, it's pretty simple setup, as you can see, and bands will bring their crashes down. I'm like, oh, that's 3 crashes or something going on. It's a bit crazy. But yeah, whatever works for them. But generally speaking, for myself, I find it more inspiring when there's a kind of note, like, I mean, that sounds pretty dead, but there's a note, so it's more tuned in a way, like, and this, you can hear that cymbal is quite dead, right? Got the cloth on, but that's also quite dead. And the kick's quite open.
Phenomenal. I love the kick. It's so good.
But so that's more inspiring to me. Like, I don't, as a drummer, you would know when you play different kits, it brings different aspects of your playing out. Like, and it's amazing when you play. I was lucky enough earlier this year to be in a studio where they had an old 50s Rogers kit.
Nice.
And so playing on that, it makes you play differently, and it's just so musical.
Yeah.
You see drums in a different way.
Sure.
But like I said, when I was growing up, it was just, you go to a studio, and I had a jazz kit pretty early on. I swapped my Maxwell Pearl for someone who, next door neighbour, gave them a kit that was in their attic, and it was an old Olympic Pearl, but it's like a jazz kit, so I swapped them that. But I remember going to studios even with that kit because I liked the sound, because I guess I was pretty early on into, let's say, the psych and I loved that sound. There's something about the drum sound of that first Pink Floyd album. I was like, wow, that's incredible. What's going on there? Because it's kind of clean, but it's still not so clean. I could still relate to that from the punk and the garage.
Yeah. There was something that was influencing, I guess, like the.
But go to a studio, they would just literally put a toilet roll on it and with some gaffer tape, take that skin off, take the front skin off, pack that full. And at the time, you wouldn't know any better. You'd just be like, oh, okay, well that's what they need to do, even though that don't sound right.
There is no note or anything. Yeah.
But I suppose that's one thing that's also, I'd say, that is important, is just for people to follow their own, judgment on things and not be influenced. Like, one thing I'm pleased about is that I didn't follow the trend in the 80s because I think that marred a lot of players in a way, great musicians who went through the 80s, they didn't come back from that. A lot of them, there was something that happened, a transition there that, and same with the studio stuff in the mid 90s, buying all this stuff when everyone was just throwing it away because they were, they wanted digital. And just like, well, actually, I don't like that sound, so I prefer this sound because I know that I've got records with this gear that sounds great. So that's going to be a good starting point, right?
Yeah.
But obviously,
How was it in the 80s? Because I guess, like, as you were saying, musicians and music was going in a direction.
Yeah.
And, you were kind of like, you know what? I know this is the sound I like, and I'm going to stick with this. How was, like, during the 80s for you in terms of, like, work and just...
Well, again, I was playing with a few bands who shared similar influences, I guess, and bands like the Weeds were pretty good because there was a lot of different influences. One of the guys was really into jazz, so he was always playing, and we thought it's crap at the time, like I say, we're into Sonic Youth or whatever.
Yeah.
But I kind of grew up listening to jazz because my dad's a jazz musician. So, and New Orleans was his thing, so he played a lot of New Orleans sort of stuff. So I do think, I don't know, swing is kind of something that you don't really hear so much in the playing, and I think that's probably a major difference between all these old records that we love and the playing, like all these classic breaks and I don't know, just the musicians, the way they play.
Yeah.
It's got a drive, and
Sure.
I think that's partly to do with what they were listening to. They were listening to jazz. They're coming directly out of jazz and blues and shuffles. I mean, that's hard to play, but a shuffle is kind of it's such an amazing.
If played well, it's
the best, right?
Yeah, it's so good.
You know, that little Richard break on the real thing.
Oh yeah.
You know, that's. I mean, it's things like that. So, what worries me a little with musicians that come down, I see there's a trend. People really playing to click, like really. None of those guys we listen to or reference or love. Can you imagine Elvin Jones playing to a fucking click? You know what I mean? Can you?
Awful.
None of. I mean, okay, the James Brown stuff is probably pretty tight, but I bet you, even in the space of a few bars, it's going to move. And, but then it will come back.
Yeah.
At some point, it will just, reacting. It's reactive, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing about live music. It is reactive, and that's where the interest lies. I mean, don't get me wrong, the hip hop stuff is heavy, but then you've got the rapping, which is kind of like the live element.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, they're taking samples from the 70s, which are not really.
I've got
precise.
a great sound already, and they have got movement within that.
Yeah.
But it's also that mindset, which I think is amazing, is that non-musician attitude towards music, like a bit like punk, where it's all about having an idea, which is important, and something to say. But the way that punk was combining genres was pretty interesting. Like bands, I don't know, Raincoats and Slits and all those sort of bands were, as much into dub, Public Enemy, Public Image. Obviously listen to disco and dub and stuff that was current at the time, so they were just taking bits from and bringing into the music. ESG, and I think that's what hip hop did, but to an even greater degree, because they didn't have, if you like, a musical ear in a traditional sense. That sounds good to me. So I'm taking this Velvet Underground track, I'm putting this with John Coltrane, then I'm going to put a bass line which is totally in the wrong key, and it sounds flipping excellent. It sounds great, right?
It sounds great. So
and
you don't need the theory behind.
Not at all. And that's what I wish more musicians had that. That outlook, because everyone, like, they go back to the default setting. And I was having this conversation with someone, and it's true that how many times, if you're trying to write a song, you find yourself slipping back into like jank or whatever, maybe not that obvious, but cliches. You will play something and you'll go, that sounds great. Then you realise the reason why it sounds great is because it's tried and tested, and that chord progression has been used a lot, and it always works. But then, how many times can you use it? Before, so there's no point in playing safe, because you only get a little, you only get a crack at it, and
exactly.
Just do what you want.
Exactly. Yeah. It definitely gives you also a bit more freedom as well. Instead of just being like, oh, am I playing to click? Am I playing?
Well, that's the thing. Click. It's all about, again, you listen to those funk records, and they've all got character. All those musicians have got character.
Yeah.
It's not homogenized down to one thing. And the click, people start sounding the same, and as soon as you put a click on, generally speaking, drummers just stiffen up. I mean, it is and it's so on the beat.
Yeah.
And it's really hard, click, to hear it as something to play to, not be.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah.
You know, and to make a click thing work,
Yeah.
groove, it is really hard. It takes a while, but I think again, as musicians, all we got is who we are and our experiences and.
Yeah. I actually wanted to ask you, like, when you record your own music, is it anything to click, or is it just purely nothing?
I don't know. I haven't used. The only time I've used click is like with people ask me to do drums on their stuff sometimes. But even then, what I'll find that I will maybe put the drums in a slightly different place. If I just follow the bass and where they were hearing it. I'm not saying that's great, but sometimes it sounds less stiff.
Okay.
Or something. I don't know. If I just follow the bass, sometimes there's maybe more drive to it than the click was, or I don't know. But then sometimes, you just have to follow the click and make it work. But otherwise, no, I don't encourage click. And a lot of bands do want to use it, and I understand. For certain music, of course, you need everyone's following the drums. You need, you know, like snapped ankles, the guys. He's following. I don't know if it's click, but he's following something maybe that helps lock it down, because that has to be, you know, super tight.
But it's so funny because your music sounds so much in the pocket, like everything. You know, let's say when you were showing me before, like something, and I was like, wow, this is, you know, the guitar was with the snare. And it was so locked in, and I was like, wow, it kind of feels like it could be with the click, but you know, so it's amazing that you can be so in the pocket and without needing any of that sort of reference, you know.
I don't know. I mean, we're all guilty of negative self-scrutiny, I guess, but you know, for me, I still feel like a beginner. Do you know what I mean? To be honest, with the drums, I mean, it's crazy how much it varies. But I think when you're playing with other musicians, something happens which, you know, you're inspired. Whereas maybe if you're playing on your own and you're trying to work out how to include a paradiddle into or something. Oh, you know what I mean? It's something about that's maybe a little cold, but when you do play with a band and I think that applying that idea of where do I want to hear the beat with that, rather than counting it 1 and 2 and 3, you know, but I think any music, no matter what it is, and there's some stuff that I've got because I collect labels like Akora, which are a constant source of inspiration. Just it's a, you know, wow. I mean, all that, you know, recordings from the 50s and 60s in Africa, you know, some of that stuff I can't tell. But you know, if someone was to hum a bass line, it's going to give a pulse, right? And you're going to hear that, and it'll be okay. That's all I can do as a drummer, is where I feel it, and sometimes it's not where other people feel it. I'll be at a gig and there'll be people watching me counting it, and I'm like, what am I doing wrong? What am I? But it's
you just feel it.
We just but I guess we all hear it slightly different. But so if something's got a pulse, you just play within that, right? Try to. But it does help, like with the Helios, for instance. I mean, Jake is such a solid bass player that I've kind of developed a style where I try and break it up more. So I will try and purposely like be out of time. Because when we started, we're listening to hip hop, listening to the funk stuff, and we were kind of, at the time, that first Helios album is kind of maybe in some ways, I don't know, maybe what some bands are doing now, but their own take on it. And where people at the time, there weren't that many people who were referencing that stuff and could play it. And now everyone can. You know what I mean? Everyone can play it. Play that. It's no big deal. It's like, funky drummer, whatever. I don't know. But so if the bass is super solid and repetitive, and the drums are super solid and repetitive, it's easy, right? You can just keep in the pocket and just play. But then it's something that's been so well documented, especially like dance, and it's
Yeah.
about the repetition. And admittedly, African music, it's about the repetition, but the rhythmic interest is endless.
Yeah.
And there's stuff that I would defy you to tell me where the one is. And is that 6 or is that 4 or what?
Yeah.
It's so crazy rhythmically.
I wanted to ask you about mic setup, because it's quite minimal from what I see here.
Yeah.
I wonder if you use different mic setups, of course, like for probably different.
All the time. Yeah.
But what's your, like, let's say for example, the Electric War, the Little Berry album. Those sounds are, by the way, they just.
Oh, glad. Thank you, man. I'm glad. So you like them. I mean, it is this kit.
Is it? Oh wow!
So
amazing.
That contributes a lot. I mean, I suppose the ideal would be something that has got that the openness of those old recordings, but it's got the heaviness of hip hop.
Okay.
Or, sort of thing. Maybe not like the modern hip hop is super heavy with sub bass that can crush your skull.
Yeah.
I'm not really.
Yeah.
I'm not so much about that, because again, it's something about stuff being real. In the same way, I've said it before, but it's like, I don't want to hear that Glastonbury bass drum sound. I can hear it 2 miles away. That's not my idea of how a drum sounds.
Sure, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's but I think it's having headroom is important. So I have a mic that I use 3 mics generally.
Yeah.
And so it's always a quest for me to try and to keep it to 3 mics,
Okay.
if possible. So trying to find a mic that picks up the toms,
Nice.
and hence
Also the
a cymbal that isn't kind of trashy.
Yeah.
That's kind of dark sounding. At the minute, this is an AKG. The pencil one, 451.
Yeah.
This is actually the mic that Mickey and the Soul Generation recorded their sound.
Okay.
It's an old funk band, late 60s funk band, and I really like the sound. We licensed some music from the label they were on in San Antonio called Mr. G Records, and we met Mr. G, Manny Guerra. And I asked him, I said, man, how'd you get that sound? It's a nice sound. On the drums, and he said, "Oh, wait," and he dug around in one of his filing cabinets, and he pulled that out. He goes, "Oh, this is the mic we use. This is the overhead," and yeah, sure enough, it is that sound. So it's a condenser, obviously. Right?
Yeah.
So, but it does kind of pick up the toms, and it's kind of pretty hi-fi.
Yeah.
This is I had a friend over. Kenny Beats was over at one point to have a chat and just see the studio, and we were just talking drums, and he recommended this modern Telefunken mic for the kick.
Right.
So I bought that, and sure enough, again, it's it's kind of clean, but then it does pick up the attack, and it does, it's got maybe a bass booster on it or something. I don't know, but it picks up the bottom end.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
For me, that's what I'm really after. I'd like a pretty heavy bottom end, but with it being still believable. You know what I mean? As a part of a live thing.
Sure.
This is an old Calrec, but I've been after another one. This is a Valve Calrec, but I've never seen another one. Look. That one's big. Look at this.
All right, yeah. It's been used, yeah.
People hit it, and but that was definitely on Electric War. I use that as a snare mic a lot.
Do you always place it facing the shell of the drums, or?
I put it in between, so it's not.
Okay.
I don't want to hear the top, and I don't want to hear the bottom. So yeah, I put it halfway in between. And at that point, I'm getting the bottom skin and the top skin.
Okay.
I was in the studio not so long ago, and they tried it, and they were like, "Oh yeah, actually, that's That's quite an interesting sound. And it picks up the hi-hat
Nice.
just enough as well. It's just trial and error. I've been doing this a long time, you know,
Okay.
recording the Helios and just trying to, the least amount of mics, the least amount of...
Bass as well, I guess.
and also just the limited wiring and electronics and just straight into the desk.
Yeah.
Try and not mess with the signal, you know, and just capture, the raw sound, but clean enough that I can take it wherever I want to later, because sometimes it will require treatment. You know, the drums, it will require something, like if you're doing something that's a bit more dance. Yeah. You know, I will put it maybe through a sub-harmonic divider, I think it's called, and it's a pedal, but you can filter out and you can boost it, you know, things like that to get a more bottom end. Yeah.
Do you change much the snare, or is it like normally you like to use that one and then you kind of mix it differently?
Well, snare-wise, I mean, I've got a few mics that I've picked up over time, and if it's more jazz stuff, I've got a C28, AKG C28, which is a really nice mic, and that's clean, but it's valve, and it's got a nice kind of nice top end to it. It's not harsh, you know. And that's the thing that I try and avoid. And I think a lot of that's to do with cutoff. I think these mics probably go up to 15K or something, but they've got a roll off, and it's not that harsh top end.
Okay.
It's very important to me, that top end. That's something about those old recordings that I love, is that the top end is kind of sweet.
Yeah. Right.
You know, it's not this harsh kind of top end, which I've heard on some recordings. But as a drummer, I suppose I would be particular about that. So that's important. I think these old mics capture that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was wondering, how do you make those drum sounds on your records? It always feels like, especially the snare, I feel like it always pops out. It kind of like, it's got such an, you know, when you're listening, the whole recording, the snare has got such an important, even the bass drum, of course, even the kick. But for some reason, is there anything mixing wise that you do?
Well, see, what I would do I've got 3 channels, right?
Yeah.
So depending on the mic I'm going to use, another good mic is a Geffel on the snare. Got a Geffel, that sounds great on a snare, but I'm a bit reluctant, because, you know, I had one and the capsule went, and luckily a friend of mine called Mr. Chop Cos, he had a spare capsule and he just gave it to me, so that was lovely of him. But, you know, it's a shame someone hits it and it's gone, because I won't get another capsule that easily. Yeah. So depending on the mic, but anyway, so generally 3 channels, right? Different mics. The other mic I use a lot is a Sony mixer mic. It's just one that I bought at Boot Fair for £3, and that's on our first 3 albums, I suppose. It's just but it just sounds nice on the snare for some reason. It's so you can pick them up for, I bought a new one because I broke one, but again it was like £6 or something.
Oh wow.
So it's again, it's the same with the gear. It's more important your ears and the gear. But what I used to do a lot, I would take the free raw drum files, right? The stems, and process each of them.
Okay.
And you have to be careful when you do that, because each time you record it, you make a stem of something. It's moving it subtly, right?
Yeah.
But if you line it up to the original, you'll notice that it's of course it's going to be behind each time, right? Because so if you do it enough times, then suddenly you're going to have some kind of rhythmic discrepancies, you know, that aren't ideal. But what's handy about some of the gear I've got is that I've got a couple of different compressors. I've got a Chiswick Reach, which is interesting because you can slow down the attack and release, obviously, like all compressors, but it almost like changes the swing a little bit. Okay. And so if you want to slow it down, if you want the snare further back, you can put it through that, mess around with the attack and release, and you got, okay. But then if you want the kick ahead, I put it through. I've got BBC limiters,
Oh, right. Okay.
and they're amazing because they actually, when you record, they've put stuff ahead. You line it up, and they're fractionally ahead of the original.
Okay.
And it's I can't remember the premise of how they operate, but my engineer Clive Cavan, who's the best engineer around, at least this side of the Atlantic or whatever, but he told me he's deep into the science of it all, and I can't remember for the life of me what it was, but the process, if it's light, if it's optic thing, or anyway, but they're amazing because all these compressors, they do something to the rhythm, they affect the rhythm subtly. Like, okay, I want the kick a bit more, and it's not much. I'm talking about thousandths of a second here, or something, hundredth of a second, I don't know, but not much. But it
moves the
it's enough to kind of be useful in different scenarios. So that's what I would normally used to do. I would put each one through some EQs and say, okay, well look, I want to filter out the top end of this, so I'm going to use this EQ. I've got some old Langevin EQs, which one of them was a friend of mine got for £5 down Brick Lane, and I swapped him an amp that I bought a week later or something for £8 or £10 for it, and they for me are amazing sounding EQs because, well, that's what James Brown had on his desk apparently. On the output stage he had 2 Langevins.
Did he? Okay.
And they just got a very sweet top end.
Nice.
So I'm guessing a lot of that James Brown drum sound would be those.
Nice.
But they're passive, so you lose.
Okay. Yeah.
You lose a bit of level, but there's something about passive EQs that really sound good. So I run it different EQs. I haven't got a lot of EQs. I mean, I've got, they tend to be like 60s EQs where they're just bass and treble, but I've got a couple of parametrics now, which are really good.
Nice. Okay.
So I'll just boost the frequencies. I'll maybe put a bit of reverb on the overhead, then get a different reverb for the snare, and then consolidate them into one stereo mix.
Okay.
And EQ that again, maybe if I need, and then maybe marry it back into the original position. But if it works with the bass, then you're good. But these days, what I'm finding more is that I can just run it through the whole 3 channels for a stereo reverb, a little bit of reverb, and put them all through one channel on the desk, basically. So you've got kick, snare, overhead, all coming through one channel. Put them for a reverb, then EQ it. Then I put that through like a tube deck or something.
Right. Yeah.
And then compress that. Put that through a BBC limiter, or I've got these other valve limiters called Deezer, which are mind blowing, really. They're incredible. I'm lucky to have those, man. But something like that. So it's something about compressing the mix at the end of the process rather than really heavily compressing everything. That keeps it.
So everything is raw, like when you're recording, and then you do all this process, all this. Nice.
So it gives me the options and that's what I suppose I see my role as an engineer is to get the best performance out of the individuals concerned if I can, and to capture it without fucking it up in any way. Like not the cleanest, but even my ideal for clean would never be probably like what a lot of studios are getting with really modern digital desktop. It's going to be a very different thing. So probably ain't clean by their standards, but to me, I will try and get the cleanest signal. Level is a weird one, isn't it?
Yes.
Been in some studios not so long ago where I noticed the levels were in the red when they're playing it back, like in Pro Tools, you know, and the levels in the red, and I'm like, wow, what's all that about? And I think the guy said, well, you have to go in hard or go home. I think that was his answer.
Wow, okay.
But it sounded good. They were doing.
Yeah,
but
so okay, it worked too.
I've been working on the premise, especially if it's jazz and stuff like that, of making it just it's in the yellow. You know, I don't want it going, you know, too. It's going dark yellow. Oh, you know,
turn it down.
Yeah, turn it. But now I'm just like, actually, I'll just.
Sounds good. Yeah.
This digital distortion thing, but I guess it does rather depend on the converters you've got, and I've got some pretty nice converters.
Nice.
And they probably will show you that it's distorting long before you can actually hear that distortion. So
right.
I think that would account for it.
Sure. Yeah. And I saw also you using pedals as well, right? Like more and more. Yeah. How do you use that into like
a mix?
Yeah, into a mix. Yeah.
Well, it all depends. Like for me, again, a mix isn't so much about being able to hear stuff. It's not really actually ultimately that important that you can hear everything clearly. In fact, by having something really quiet in the mix makes the listener actually have to listen to it or something, rather than everything super pumping and giving it all away and kind of being overload. Pedals, they create atmosphere, and the atmosphere is what draws you in, along with having some headroom for you to be able to get into it maybe as well. So yeah, I will put stuff like guitars if I think they need just subtly something to help cut through, a little bit of fuzz, maybe a bit of delay. I like ring mod on certain things subtly, or maybe not, whatever. I put drums through all kinds of stuff. It's quite interesting on my desk, which is a Swedish broadcast desk from 1965 called an SR, but it's got filters on it. So it's just one bank of filters which go from very low to high, and you can just press them in and you can hear how it affects the sound, but it's sweepable, so you can put that on any channel. Same with a mid-range EQ that will boost 10 dB or whatever, certain mid-range frequencies. You can apply it to any channel that you want, and that can be interesting.
And it's all analog, like all.
Well, it's analog in the sense that everything that I use is analog, except I'm not recording onto tape, because I don't think, again, I don't want to sound like a know-it-all twat, but because I'm not, and I'm just, all I've got is my take on it and what I think sounds good, right? But that's the only compass I have got, really, like any of us, I suppose. But I don't think I no longer need tape to get a good sound. Do you know what I mean? Like our first couple of albums, they sound good. To me, you know, it's all done on tape, and then take the recordings of, you know, whatever the instruments were, the bass and drums, and I'll do a stereo mix of those onto 1/4 inch, get them good, then took them over to Australia and we mixed it there. But a lot of the groundwork was already done because it was off tape and it sounded great.
Amazing. Okay.
And tape, don't get me wrong, it is excellent, but then
it's also extra work, I guess.
Well, it's an expense, because no one. The dream would be to cut out the computer, get a band, do it all on tape like we did. We've done that. We've done stuff just totally on tape, even to the extent where we couldn't afford a computer, and we were scratching records on to one of the channels as an overdub, waiting for the bit to come around, then spin this record in where we wanted this saxophone or horn line to come in, then, you know. And tape, it is like a glue, and it makes your life a lot easier.
Yeah. Okay.
It makes life a lot easier, and it's especially for bass and drums, because that compression is especially on that I don't know, the Ampex 440. That's like what the funk guys were using, what Studio One use, and if a band can come in and record on it, great. Otherwise, I can get pretty close to it, like that Electric War. That's not on tape.
Okay. Yeah.
None of that's on tape.
It sounds on tape, so it's.
Well, exactly. Yeah. Then people come down and they've got this nostalgic kind of idea of tape. Oh, you got a tape machine? Yeah, but let's try it without, because it is, again, it's a form of nostalgia sometimes, rather than what it actually gives you.
Sure. So we normally end the episode with those 10.
Okay.
10
Yeah. Sure.
No rapid fire question, but.
Go on.
So first one is the hardest one is like best 3 albums for best drum sounds.
Great drum sounds. There's a 45, and in fact I've got the label next door. Someone gave it to me because the record was broken, so they turned it into somewhere to put your coffee mug.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean, like a coaster.
Coaster. Yeah.
But it's Count Yates at the Soul Inn.
Okay.
Part 2. And the start of that drum sound, and it says on the record 1966, which would be mind blowing, because I'm not sure if that's just
if it's
the number off the release, off the label, or
when it was recorded, though. Yeah, it's like could be. Anything.
But that's for me a great drum sound.
Nice.
Really amazing drum sounds. There's another 45 which definitely got a great drum sound. So. Is Bad Medicine. It's called Trespasser. Again, part 2. That's an amazing drum sound. But also, again, you've got the more hi-fi kind of stuff. Again, that Little Richard, the Real Thing break is crazy. That's an excellent sound.
Yeah, I mean there are so many.
there is a lot.
There's a lot. Yeah.
But.
If it comes back, otherwise, no worries. I mean,
I'm trying to think of something that's really, really stands out. But I guess it's important, isn't it? It's part of when you hear a record, I guess the drum sound is important. More important than people give credit for, anyway. So anyway, sorry. If another one.
No. Yeah. If anything else comes to mind. Second one is favorite part of your job.
Well. That's relatively easy compared to the first one. And that's just being a part of something that's constantly evolving and changing, like getting young bands in, being part of their process, being told to fuck off by a band because I've got an opinion and it doesn't correlate with them. That's the best news for me. Mm-hmm. In a way, it's because they're sure of what they're doing, and that's the most important thing. Right. If they're sure, and I'm like, some new bands, they come in and it's interesting. They've evolved from this thing of constant repetition, which we see a lot in music now, right? Mm-hmm. Because again, maybe the focus is on maybe more the musicianship or the production than it is about the actual structure of the song or the piece of music. Mm-hmm. But having a band coming in and just being part of that and trying to help in the process. And I won't step in if it's going good, trust me. But if I feel I can help or make it better in any way, I'll suggest it, and I'll always say, let's record your version. Let's put that down. Then afterwards, could we just try something? And then we got the 2. And 50-50, they'll go for theirs or they'll go for something that's slightly modded, But
Nice. Third one is worst part of your job.
The worst part of the job is sometimes when you're part of something amazing, no one picks up on it, and you're so excited, like a band comes in. I remember doing the first Vanishing Twin album. I produced that, and I was so sure that was gonna be, that was gonna do well, that people were gonna. And it was funny because I was doing it at the same time I was doing Black Focus, and And of course, I love the Black Focus. I love Yusuf and, you know, and Henry. You know, I think they're great together, and it's a brilliant record. And but I was like, oh, you know, I'm out of the two of them. I'm pretty sure this
one is
Vanishing
the
Twin's
one.
gonna. And of course,
Well,
you know, it doesn't work out. But Vanishing Twin, they've done well over time.
Nice.
It's just initially, you know, it's heartbreaking when a band have done something amazing, and it doesn't get released, or they just put it on their social media and no picks up.
I see. Okay.
That's tricky. Or when you've done something that you think's great as a mix, you've gone in and you spent time and you've gone, okay, I'm gonna do something really interesting here, rather than just this panned out. I can hear everything beautifully. Who cares? It's a vibe, right? It's got to mean something to you or connect to you. Like, you know, how many records have you got that may sound terrible but technically as a recording, but still they do something to you, right? So that's always tricky.
Yeah. Right. Number 4 is piece of gear you cannot do without when recording drums.
Well, I suppose a lot of the sound would have to be, besides the kit itself, I think the movable parts are the mics. You know, I can change the mics around for a different sound. It's going to sound like this kit, and it's going to sound like whoever's playing it. So obviously the kit is kind of integral to the sound of it. But I would say the desk is probably one of the most, it's coming through the desk.
Right.
Just, the mics are going straight into the back of the desk and just coming out without any faff or, you
nice.
know.
So no one gave actually that answer. That's really cool. 5 is dream artist or band that you love to record for, or, you know, either play drums on or produce, or
dream artist.
Probably there are multiple, but
yeah, I mean, that's actually pretty hard, because I must admit I've never really thought in those sort of terms, but I don't know if there is any really. It's like what happens. I don't know what happens, and whoever comes down, is always something really interesting that you gain from that experience. And you know, I've been lucky enough to have some of my childhood heroes record here and stuff like that, but the more challenging stuff, I'd love to be able to record dub down here. I'd love to be able to try different styles of music more. That would be great, and learn from some guys, like get a Mad Professor down here, and you know, him teach me some of the techniques for dub, and that would be mind blowing. Or some amazing drummer like get Gadsden in there or something, and him show me some bits, or you know, that sort of thing. But increasingly, when you get involved in engineering production, suddenly that becomes really important as a sound, and it's just this quest which never ends of trying to get a better sound. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. No. Nice. 6 is what's on your drum bus? What do you normally use on your drum bus?
Well, if I'm doing something to just hear back, like I say, I'll just literally, or if I'm doing a rough bounce for someone, stereo, reverb, tube tech, and then BBC limiters or the Deezers probably, and then that's going to be a good sound.
Nice.
And that's going to just be all three mics.
Yeah. Okay.
All, you know, just going through that one channel, going through that bit of gear, and I can get a good balance from that.
Yeah.
Generally speaking.
Perfect. 7 is there any book or video tutorial that you would recommend for learning how to record drums? Or
I must admit, no, I've never consulted.
No, okay.
Book or tutorials. I've just had to do it by ear, simply because with the Helios, you know, when we were first started, there wasn't any studios that I knew that I could get the sound that I wanted. Maybe Toe Rag, but by then he was already quite expensive. So
Nice.
I mean,
It's better to learn it on the on the spot.
well, yeah, it's the first thing that any band should do if they get some dough is just set up a studio for themselves and just
record.
Because as you can see, there's no clocks down there. There's no, that there should be no distraction from what you're doing, and no worry about, cost shouldn't be a consideration in a way, and time. Whereas I remember being a kid and you're looking at the clock and go, oh, we've only done one track, we've got 3 tracks to record. You have to eliminate all that stuff. So, you get a band comfortable and you do whatever it takes to get it done.
Yeah.
Because it's not a money-making profit machine thing, I'm telling you that. It's not. It's just survival to do the next thing and keep going. You know what I mean? We're not, maybe that's not really our motivation.
Yeah.
Money,
Definitely not. Definitely not. Yeah, music is not. 8 is, who's your inspiration if you have someone that inspires you when it comes to recording drums?
Recording drums, I would say as producers, I've got people people who take chances with stuff, people who make mistakes and will try because they're trying something and not getting stuck in a rut where they're doing the same thing all the time. And I really like the producer of Faust, like the Faust tapes. That for me is incredible. What he's doing now, he's still taking risks that most bands don't now. There's hardly any bands who are taking risks or doing something that's not from not in the tutorial. I mean, geeks are great for that they're kind of rewriting stuff and just got an idea in their head and they just want to see that come
to life. Yeah. Nice.
Come to life.
Nice. 9 is best advice you've ever received.
Well, that thing I'm saying about the guy saying mean everything. He said to me when I was playing, he said, stop, do it again, but this time think it, feel it, and then play it, which sounds really corny, doesn't it? But that was really good advice because, I think you have to convey something when you're playing, whatever it is, and it has to mean something. And if it's directly coming out of you rather than you're just doing like robotic kind of thing, then that's going to move people, I think, more than just like being some amazingly technical chopsy kind of drummer. Last one is worst advice you've ever received, if there is one. Worst advice is probably going to a studio in the 90s and then the guy going again, had an old jazz kit, maybe it's even this one, I don't know, and all tuned, and then coming back after lunch and there's all gaffer tape and he'd taken the front skin off, and I said, what are you doing? And he said, you can't record drums with the front skin on. I was like, so that was, I mean, what? How can there be rules to? It's like, how can there be rules to music? How can there be rules to recording? I've heard some of the best stuff done on a Tascam cassette. Yeah. Some bands from New Zealand, recording on one of them in the early 80s. The sound is great, and yet I've heard some of the worst recordings done on a Neve with Fairchilds. There is no rules to anything, is it? It's just, just believe in what you're doing and don't compromise, and do what you want. And
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. No, that's great. That's great. Just one last thing. Where is the best place for people to find you, to find, about your studio, and, if they want to reach out and just...
Well, I do some free recordings for people who are in the community.
Oh, okay.
So if there's any community guys in in the Islington area, you know, I do free recordings, but otherwise, of course, I have to pay rent. So I do.
Yeah.
I do also hire out the place, though primarily it is for recording the band. You know, it's for the Heliocentrics, and that's how we started, and that's still the objective. But yeah, I wouldn't be able to afford having this place unless I did some sessions. So, but there should be. I mean, there was on our Facebook, the Helios, years ago, but maybe you could put my contact details on there.
Yeah.
You know,
For sure.
because that was a long time ago, and I just want to use the place because, you know, I guess for people who don't know what I do or haven't heard what I do, I think it's. I try and keep the costs as low as I can because I'm a musician primarily, right? And that's always a major consideration. But for the cost, for the price, what I charge, it's probably one of the better analog things that you're going to get, I think.
100%.
That's if you like the sound. Go and check out Electric War. See if you like that sound. Maybe you hate it.
Yeah.
You know, but for me, some of that's getting close to sounding pretty good. It's never what you want. It always sounds different when you get the test pressing or whatever.
Nice. Thank you so much. Really, I really appreciate it, Malcolm.
No, thank you.